every human being is able to create something just by being himself and having the upbringing he had in his life. And by honoring this, you can basically just intake the universe's impacts or energies or topics, and just by repackaging it from your own perspective, there's value that other people will see from it. And this was like a game changer for me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back for another episode where I talk to my favorite people in the world. Today is an awesome one because my friend Max DeMarco and I, we met it was 1 year ago roughly at Safety's carnivore dinner in Miami. And we've been meaning to catch up for a while because we have so many similar tracks going on, but we figured we'll just throw it on a recording and just see what happens there, because share it with the world. Why not? That's what we're doing here. We're sharing stories, we're going down rabbit holes, we're having fun, we're buying Bitcoin, we're eating meat. Max DeMarco, yes, thank you for joining me, my friend. Great to have you here.
Great to see you, man. And I remember at the carnivore dinner, you've been overweight, man. It was like, yeah, you
I was a little chunky, dude.
You were chunky. Compared to now, man, you lost so much weight. You look so much better. So
people keep telling me that, but to me, it didn't feel like a lot to me. But when other people mention it, it comes up.
Yeah.
So appreciate
it's especially
it.
because now you can see the difference. You know, it's like, especially me not seeing you for a while, and it's like, every time there are some months in between, and I just see your progression. So yeah, man, that's first time you were definitely looking differently, and now you look way healthier. So
thanks, bro.
It's a good sign.
The thing about me is that my fat goes straight to my face, dude. That's like my spot where it becomes visible quickly. Mm-hmm. So, it's nice to have not just like a potato head, you know.
Dude, yeah.
And everyone has like a different spot where it hits them. So have you ever had any health struggles before? Because I know you're going down all these health rabbit holes, but have you always been fairly healthy? I can't remember ever seeing you not being fairly healthy.
It's kind of like I had some periods where I was unhealthy. So when I was beginning of my 20s, I kind of wanted to start or was building a business, and I was eating so many seed oils and just actually it was just the seed oils, and I was getting on the cusp of getting fat. It was I was just after 3 weeks already. It happened super fast. But I think I have I know when I'm going towards being unhealthy and can relatively fast steer back, because this is kind of a priority for my life, to be healthy. So I definitely have those periods where I'm maybe not as disciplined, or I have other things which I need to prioritize in those phases. But I managed to always get back into it again before it got out of control. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess part of the way that people can find that North Star that they can always come back to is by just education and learning what the truth is. Because for those many years of me just very slowly, gradually just sort of going downhill health-wise, I was never, horribly unhealthy like we see a lot of people walking around in the streets today. But I was eating what I thought was pretty good, Yeah. I was having... And you may have a different view here, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts just on the diet side. But I was eating the classic mixed diet. I was having a little bit of meat, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of veggies, a little bit of grains, and pretty much mixed everything together all the time. It was definitely more carbs than protein and fat, though. Yep. There was very little fat. That's something I definitely remember, because I always thought that fat was bad. So my only meat that I really had regularly was chicken.
Yeah.
And was that similar for you? What has been your evolution on the diet side?
Dude, it's very interesting. For me, a lot is just listening to my body. So I started experimenting and doing all of this without even. I'm not a person who's that much diving or hasn't dove down that deep into education. So I'm a lot which I do is just listening to my body, what works and what doesn't work, and then finding some educated articles or videos to kind of verify what it is. So that's also why I do my videos like I do them. It's basically me trying it out. Like when I started with the carnivore diet, dude, I had no fucking idea what I did with the carnivore diet. I made so many mistakes, not taking magnesium, potassium, and so on. But it's like, this is just my way of learning and figuring out what works for my body, is just to actually dive down and just doing it and like do things wrong, adjust. People tell me, oh, dude, you shouldn't eat breakfast on a carnivore diet. You don't need this. Don't eat 3 times and so on. So it's like a lot of the things I do in my life are also not based on science in a sense, but it's just which I figured out to be my best way to do it. So, for example, you asked me what my diet now is. Like, I've been carnivore for a couple of months. Then I adjusted back into actually eating a lot of carbs because I was training for a Muay Thai fight and it didn't work on carnivore. So I was training like 4 to 8 hours a day, walking Muay Thai. And then it was like, I was so like, even in ketosis, it didn't work. So I needed to integrate at least some carbs, and I started eating again. And so it's like, for me, it's a constant evolution of what phase I'm in and then adjusting my diet. So now, for example, I'm like almost not eating any carbs anymore because I'm just not burning as much, and like I go to the gym and so on, but I'm trying to prioritize animal fats and eating some fruits here and there. And I know that you don't like the fruits, but we can talk about this. But for me, it's really experimenting around all of those educated theories and then figuring out what is best for me, because I think although there's truth to a lot of the science around it, everybody still needs to figure out what works for them best, because everybody's wired differently. So this is how it worked for me. I've never had any big issues with my health. I feel great. So yeah.
I have some people to send your way for your podcast that you have coming up, which is, spoiler alert, people, Max is doing a podcast now, which
Yes,
I'm really
sir.
excited about.
Dude, this is like the first time anybody will hear about this. Like,
love
depending
it.
on
I don't know when
this
it's going
launch.
to come out, so I don't want to get too excited. I've been recording like a madman the last couple of weeks. I've been doing like 2 every day, so I'm going to have a bit of a backlog. We'll see when this comes out, but probably when it comes out, it'll be out there and ready for people to check out.
It's called Proof of Health, if anybody's wondering. Proof of Health.
Cool, yeah. Man. I love it. Yeah. I have some people to send your way for sure, because as I was saying before we started recording, I had, so many of these same questions, and I basically have spent the last year going down specifically the health rabbit hole, and the carnivore diet was like a big part of that. So just like you, and I watch in your movies, you have you're really good at getting the best names, the best people out there to discuss the topics you go into. I feel like you and I both have that skill of being able to find the right people to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And the carnivore world is just such a deep one, full of depth, and I've found some awesome people who I think would be the perfect people to talk to your like that case of training for your fight.
Yeah.
And not being able to find the right macros on carnivore, needing to add carbs in. I think that there would be like some very interesting thoughts on why that was, why you didn't feel as good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll shoot those over your way, because I think that they would love chatting with you. And
sounds good.
Do you know Dr. Anthony Chafee by chance? He's probably the first guy I would send you.
No, not yet, but I'm kind of looking forward to talk to those people.
Yeah.
Because as I said, like most of this is just me figuring out, and there is a chance that I figured things out wrongly, right? It's not that I know everything about health. That's kind of also what my videos are about. It's just like, dude, I'm a normal dude who tries to be healthy, and I want to like take people on the journey, because I think there's like, health is such a spectrum. It's just so personal that, as I said, everybody needs to figure out how to do it. And this is how I'm figuring it out. And I think it can help a lot of people to just, see how I figure things out, to adopt what they like, what I've figured out or didn't figure out, just to, and that's basically what the podcast will be also about, like me talking with experts and questioning them what it is really about without, a lot of the podcasts go over my head with Andrew Huberman and so on. Like when there are like people on there, it's like, the fuck are you talking about? I have no idea about those biological processes and so on. explain it to me so I can understand it and I know how it will impact my life, and I'll try it. So this is kind of what I'm trying to achieve with Proof of Health.
Yeah, and I think we both have the same exact goal for what we're doing, which is not to, guide people in a certain way or tell people they should do a certain thing, but sort of open their mind to the new possibilities of just testing things out themselves and giving them as much information as possible to have them armed to have the most successful self-experiments possible.
Yeah,
I think that might be a good way to put it, because
yeah.
that's like your whole thing. It's like when people watch your videos, it's you always are like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Let's try it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the only difference for me is that I've picked a couple like focuses that I've been on for several months and get like deeper and deeper into. But I still don't remember some of these like details of the biology, like you said.
Yeah.
When in the reason why I brought up Dr. Anthony Chafee, that is like, in my opinion, I think the most value-packed episode I've ever done, because this guy, like, every time he opens his mouth, he just like unloads an encyclopedia of information. It just blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that type of person. I can't remember all these things.
Same
I
here.
can't remember the dates that things happen, or the parts of the body that do different things, because just like you, I believe I am quite a generalist. Would you consider yourself a generalist as well?
Very much
Yeah.
so, yeah. Yes.
And that's not a bad thing, certain people have really good detail retention memory and their brain fits into that mold. But for me, I would rather just know the gist of a lot of things. I think that is, for me, a more fulfilling way to go through life. Just having like a really, decent, not amazing understanding of everything, but pick certain things that are more important and then go extra deep on those, of course, like Bitcoin and carnivore. And, all the most important things out there need a deeper dive. But in general, it's good to always keep one foot out the door, ready for other things that pop up and other interesting things. So
exactly.
I would love to, let's just start with your story, man. I'd love to hear just your backstory, because you obviously grew up in Germany, and you've been through sort of the European upbringing, getting to where you are today. And you and I came from totally different places, but we sort of ended up on the same lifestyle. We're both nomading right now. We're both in Latin America, different countries, working on our business and grinding. So give me the backstory for Max DeMarco. Where did it all begin?
Yes, sir. So everything began in Germany, as you said. And I was very interested in making videos when I was like 10 or 12, when YouTube just blew up. I did my first YouTube videos. This was kind of like what I did for fun. Of course, never thought that this could go or put me into a career, into making money. So I made a video about homeschooling where I'm like, yeah, the schooling system basically put me out of it, which kind of is true, because I knew that, okay, with YouTube and videos, I will never be able to earn any money. So when I was like 13, 14, I heard of the first bedroom producers, like making music. And I was a musician, so I played instruments all my life. So I transitioned from making videos into making music. And this was like my big goal, to become a musician producing music. And then like I went through school, everything was good, went to make some music, and then decided to actually study music business, because I wanted really to dive down the music industry. And after studying, I've been working in the music industry, worked for a couple of labels, producing talents, finding new talents, been A&Ring, which means just like finding new talents and trying to break them. And from there, then I somehow discovered Bitcoin. So there was like this big trend of blockchain and how it would revolutionize the music industry, because now you can automate all the licensing and you can do micropayments and all of this. And I was like, oh, holy shit, I need to do this. And then I was involved, actually, funnily enough, to create a shitcoin together with the European Union. I was in a research group to create a coin for the music industry, which should create a circular economy within Europe to foster indie music and be used on festivals and so on. So I was on the business side of this and trying to figure out the incentives. And while doing this, I was like, why am I actually doing this? There's Bitcoin. Like, this doesn't really make sense going back to bartering. Like, what is this? So this kind of is my orange pilling story, where I came from the music industry, discovered this technology, thought that the technology will solve a lot of problems with music, then went down what is money, and then obviously came to the conclusion, okay, Bitcoin is the only way only way forward. And then I was in this position where I was like realizing that the music industry is like the incentives in the music industry is totally wrong. It's just to make fiat money, and wanted to get into the Bitcoin industry. But as a musician, I was like, the fuck can I do in the Bitcoin industry? There was nothing. So I started in the background editing Bitcoin podcasts. So I have an agency where I actually edit a lot of podcasts from behind the scenes of Bitcoiners, which probably if you're a Bitcoiner, you heard a lot of my productions.
You worked with Safedine, right? Weren't you working with him? Yeah.
Yeah, Safedine, and I did Svetsky, I did Bitcoin Magazine, 12 podcasts, which they manage. I did a lot. And so then I was able to basically quit all my fiat jobs and go full-time in Bitcoin. And then from there, I transitioned into making videos again, because it was just so near, and some of the podcasts wanted me to produce their videos. And then I rediscovered my love for doing videos. And then COVID happened, and I was in Germany. And as a lot of people probably know, Germany went a little bit crazy. And I was, during that time, wanted to just leave Germany. So I got with a bunch of Bitcoiners together, and we moved to Croatia. And there we had our own small citadel. And then I started making videos about the citadel, and they blew up on Twitter. And from there, I decided that I need to do more of my own videos, create more content rather than consuming. And this is how I got where I am right now. I still have a podcasting agency. So if you have a podcast and need reels, need videos, or just editing, I have a full team doing this now. And next to this, I'm building my own brand by creating my own podcast now, my own YouTube videos. And that's what I do for life.
Super cool, man. I love it. So many similarities to me there, just how you had these artistic creative outlets from birth. Basically, you were always into music and video production and these artistic things, but you had that sort of lost for a period and during the educational side of things. So could you maybe go into a little bit of detail there? Maybe I could share my story as well of how, like, what was it that sucked the passion out, do you think? Was it just the educational system itself, the way that the incentives are aligned to sort of, detach you from what your natural path? How would you state that?
I think it's just the indoctrination of how hard it is to make money on that way. That it's like you have to go, like, it's super risky to do that. And I would say, like, not just in like the schooling system and so on. Of course, they have like this one path which you should go down to, but also it was for me. I knew that it's a big risk to do that, so I tried to mitigate the risk as much as possible. So even when I tried to be a musician, I studied music business. Why? Because this would open my career opportunities, even if my personal brand or my personal artistry doesn't work, that I can manage other artists and so on. So this was a way for me to, probably I was just like not as affinity for risk.
Risk averse, I think is the word, yeah.
Exactly, okay. Risk averse, which now I'm the total opposite. I'm trying to increase the risk I'm going as much as possible, because this is actually how I think you can achieve things and make actually a dent in the universe. But I wasn't wired that way yet. I learned this by exploring Bitcoin, getting more self-sovereign, like trusting my intuition and my abilities. So it really was this thought that I want to provide for my future family. I want to build something, but I didn't believe in myself that I'll be able to do it with creative things. So I definitely needed to relearn that. And Bitcoin brought me back on this path by just like also showing me what proof of work means, because I would say before that I was like, oh yeah, how can I game the system, how can I get viral really quick? And now I was like, okay, no, I just need to put in the work, and if I stick long enough it's gonna happen. And this is ultimately what happened to me. I was like working very, very hard for every day on like learning how to do videos, storytelling, and this led to like incredible feedback loops which just made me better and better. And so yeah, it's kind of like just me getting risk averse. And also now with the podcast, so many people say, hey, do we actually need a new podcast? And it's like my old me would say like, no, we don't need another podcast because there are so many podcasts talking about the same thing. But I really like, I don't know if you read The Creative Act from Rick Rubin. It's a very, very good book, which basically says that every human being is able to create something just by being himself and having the upbringing he had in his life. And by honoring this, you can basically just intake the universe's impacts or energies or topics, and just by repackaging it from your own perspective, there is value that other people will see from it. And this was like a game changer for me, because I was always like, oh, why would people care what I think about this topic? Why would people care about me sleeping on the floor? It's like but if you think about this way, that first of all, you can't fail by doing this because it's just a journey, and every creative thing you put out there is just a part of you learning and like stacking up skills. This helped me massively. And I needed to relearn it, and I'm still needing to relearn it and trust on my intuition. So it's not a thing which stops. It's like every day the same thing happens.
Totally. So I guess it'd be fair to just summarize it. It wasn't really the educational system that beat it out, but just the hopelessness of thinking this industry is so big, there's just no way to monetize this. And
Yeah.
I think that we're in an interesting time where you talk to any musician in the music industry or artists in the art world, and they will say that it is just so competitive, so hard to get your name out there. But at the same time, there's so little barriers to entry for people. So it's kind of a weird mix of like huge opportunity but huge challenge. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited about things like Nostr and Bitcoin for artists, as you learned, going through the shitcoin phases, I did as well, that, there is this Bitcoin thing. This is what's going to help our artists. It's not the NFTs or the music coin that you're trying to make that you think is going to change everything. It's just having sound money and money that you can actually save. And in the case of Nostr, a social media protocol you can actually, instantly make money on and monetize and be paid for your work, which your Nostr documentary video was one of the first posts I saw on there that was like racking it up. You made like what, $3,000 or something equivalent in Bitcoin from that post?
Yeah, something like, I think it was just the zaps were 7 or 8 million satoshis, something like that.
That's so dope, dude.
Yeah,
that really was cool. Inspirational to watch, just like that go up and watch it go super viral, because like everyone on Nostr was sharing that, because it does such a great job of encapsulating what this is about, why people should care about Nostr and why they should be interested in it. And it also goes to show, there's so much scaling that can be done on this. It's infinitely scalable because you don't have to worry about the decentralized parties just chopping your kneecaps off when you talk about something they don't want you to talk about. There's always that claw on your back when you're on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, where you have to, shut up about certain things or you could lose everything.
Yep.
And Nostr is completely different because there isn't that anywhere. There's
Exactly.
no, it's not ruled by anyone. So you can truly do whatever you want. And the more you grow, the more potential you have to make money on it. And I know like certain artists will be like, oh, it's not about the money. Like, it shouldn't be about the money and, whatever. Like, fuck that.
It is about the money. It's like, dude,
money
but
is not an
having,
evil thing.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
measure of the value you're providing people, and this is something that I love about the Bitcoin world. It's such a contrast from what's an example like Reddit, for example. Like when people on Reddit are just, if you try to post anything from yourself or even mention the word like monetization, people just re at you for oh, like you're just a shill, you're paid off, you're bought or whatever. And in the Bitcoin world, people know that money is a measure of like how much good you're creating. You should want to make money. This is not a
Exactly.
bad thing.
Yeah. And this is kind of like, as you say, like money is the ultimate measurement of how valuable you are for other people. And this is actually really hard to nail down as an artist, as a creative. As it's like, this is the hardest thing, man. And this might take 5 to 10 years until you see some of that money. And here again, it's good to see what Bitcoin is, because I think being a creator, being creative and an artist is kind of, it is to a certain extent a uh, a thing which you need to prepare, or at least have like I needed a transition from having like my agency, because to be honest, like even now I wouldn't be able to live fully on my YouTube, and because I also don't have sponsors on there, because I do most of it value for value. But there are like so many things which my mic just dropped. Let me check. Mic check 1 2. So there are so many things as an artist which makes it hard, and I don't think it's a bad thing that it's hard. I think it's actually a great thing that it's hard. For example, with the podcast I'm creating now, I'm also not expecting it to blow up instantly, because I know this is a game which probably going to take like 2 to 3 years until actually something happens. And I would say this is just like, again, this thing how with Bitcoin, like, why do you do Bitcoin? It's not because you expect it to blow up within the next week. It's kind of like, that the incentives are right, and if you do it correctly, like in 4 years, maybe in 8 years, maybe 3 cycles, then you will have the financial freedom to be able to do what you want to do. So and all of those tools that you mentioned just make it easier for that period, because when you're building your audience and you building the audience on a fundament which people can just rug you from one day to the other one, all of your work, if it takes 5 years, can be gone. It's like everything you did doesn't matter, because YouTube shut down your account and any followers you have on there are gone. So I think that's why it's so incredibly important to build Nostr the way it does, because this will just enable more content creators to actually do what they want to do, with the safety that they own their own fan base, their people, and hopefully then figure out a way to monetize it down the road. Because again, it's super hard, but I think it is good, because also it's kind of this thing of like, do you really want to do this? Like, if you want to do this, you need to figure it somehow out, and it shouldn't stop you if you don't earn money the first year or 2 years. And I think this is the proof of work, because everybody wants to be a content creator, and it's the best job ever, but it's incredibly fucking hard. Like, you really need to work a lot, and nobody sees this, nobody appreciates this. As you say, like some of my documentaries, the Muay Thai documentary, it took me 8 months to do this documentary. It's like, you will watch this in 20 minutes and it's oh, this is nice here, but there's so much effort, so much sweat in this one piece. And it's just like, if I wouldn't truly believe in what I can do with this and what I want to do this, I wouldn't be able to truly push through this. And I don't know if I'm going to earn any money on this documentary. I hope, right? I hope that people find it valuable, that the algorithm pushes it up and so on. But I think this is just too important to put a little bit into the perspective what it actually means to do this, because it's very easy to forget. Oh, he's just an influencer. He puts some posts on Nostr, gets paid for it or whatever. It's like those are not the real proof of work creators, which I think will do it in the long run. It's rather the people who are actually creating and building a craft in a certain area of their life.
Yeah, and it sharpens you in the right way to just, throw yourself into these challenges. And I think that is, I know that that's the theme that's sort of been in some of your past videos as well, how we need to get back to doing hard things.
Yes.
And like really, grinding and appreciating that hard work is required to create great things, and love it, embrace it,
Yes.
Because I just passed the 1 year mark for this podcast, and so little money has been made on it. It's like negligible, but
Yeah.
I love it so much, and I'm excited about the future. Like you said, I know some people are like, oh, I don't care about the money. Like, I do care about the money. I just am looking very long term on this. I think that I have the potential to keep growing it. And now that we have tools like Nostr that make it possible to make money directly for our content, and we are so early to this as well. And just the ability to save in Bitcoin really has just expanded my brain to look further into the future. Like you mentioned, we're like roughly the same age right now. I'm turning 30 in literally a week from this recording. Are you around that age too?
Yes, two more years. Like I said, like 2 years ahead of me. But yeah.
So you're 28. Yep. And we're both sort of in the same boat right now. We're both single dudes. We're thinking about we're planning for the future. We want to start a family. We want to get all this stuff. And for me, Bitcoin and Nostr is a huge part of that, because those give me the ability to save for the future by creating the art that I enjoy, which I would consider podcasting certainly an art form.
For sure.
And this is so exciting. And this is why I just can't stop talking about these things. And none of us Bitcoiners or Nostr people can stop talking about this, because this is a game changer for the world. Once everyone has this track to be able to create what they love without censorship, with the ability to instantly make real money, not fiat monopoly money for their content, it really unlocks different synapses in your brain that just motivate you to become more of yourself, which is amazing.
Yes.
Because the fiat art industry of all sorts, like music, art, like any type of art, is all formed in a way right now that pushes you outside of really being yourself. You have to conform to certain trends, or like music, for example, all the songs are super short and just like catchy jingles, and it's becoming very fiat music for people out there who are just have really short attention spans. There's some woman on Nostr. Her username is "Make Songs Longer" in all caps. I think that's hilarious, because it's true. There used to be such deep, powerful music in on the airwaves that people would go listen to and really just feel uplifted and be motivated to become a better human and think about life in a new way. And we have none of that
know
anymore.
a fun fact?
Yeah.
So do you know why songs are 3 minutes 30?
Why?
So it has actually nothing to do with the attention span. It's kind of now like so music changes always because of the technology it's getting played at. So we had like long pieces when there was like orchestras and you needed to go in there and so on. But with technological updates, like with money as well, like money and Bitcoin goes through different periods where money is updating, right? We had like stones, then we had gold, and now we have Bitcoin. The same thing actually happens with art and also with music. So with music, it's actually because why is a song 3 minutes 30? It's because we had the first vinyl and shellac plate, not plates, but the turntable,
like the record player.
Record players,
Yeah.
yes, they weren't able to hold longer songs than 3 minutes 30 So if you wanted to have your songs more efficiently distributed onto radio and so on, you needed to conform to this technology. So this is how all the songs in the radios began to be 330, and that's how they were played. So now we are in the next station of YouTube and Spotify, where the key metric is that if somebody listens to longer than 30 seconds, that's a play. So if you just listen to it for 10 seconds, it doesn't count as a play. So how the music now changes is that every music starts with like the hook and the refrain until you reach the 30 seconds, because then it's a count. And if you think about it, it's crazy because it's like not a conscious thing, but this actually influences art. So now like people do songs which are like 1 minute 30, maybe even like 2 minutes. Why? Because this this technological algorithmic driven medium or platform incentivizes you to make shorter art, because then you get like more money. And so it's really interesting how innovations actually have such a big impact on art forms, on like just the overall way humans how to say culture, like on culture itself. And I think the same thing will happen with Nostr. You know, if we go away from being constrained by those platforms, or even create different clients and who honor different art of culture, we get like a way bigger diversity of cultural art or social media posts or whatever it will be. But I think it's very interesting to see that it's actually a huge deal if something like Nostr will succeed. Same with Twitter. You know, when Twitter was like, it changed how news have been processed, and how you do headlining and so on. And I think this is why so many people are so bullish on Nostr, because it's just like the next step in all of this. And this is again something where we don't know how it's going to pan out, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to have a huge influence.
And unlike so many other technological steps that, you know, you can sort of see the writing on the wall that it's going to come with either danger or, you know, conforming people in a certain way, Nostr opens people up. It just lets people become fully human again, which is, I think you and I would agree. I'm super bullish on humanity as a whole. I
Very
think
much,
that
yeah.
there's a lot of, you know, when you walk around in public or walk around the airport like we always do, it's easy to get pessimistic because people are super unhealthy, and you can see that there is just, you know, people just aren't well right now. But I see that as an opportunity because we have so many new avenues popping up for people to heal themselves, find their calling in life, and start thinking bigger again and get them out of the fiat hamster wheel, you know, because there's so many pieces to why people are so stuck and not able to even have the bandwidth to think about their health. And this is sort of where I was, you know, just a couple of years ago, where I was, you know, just sort of eating a little bit of everything, not really diving deep into what is the truth here. And I was just following along the narratives that I was always given, which is eat lots of fruits and vegetables and grains. And it wasn't really even registering in my brain that I was, you know, my health was slowly going downhill, because it's a big step for a lot of people to realize that all these things were lies that they were fed growing up from all the government education and the doctors and the fiat medicine and everything.
Yeah.
We just need to give people the ability to have the wherewithal and take the boot off their neck from the inflation, which is a huge piece of it. So there's the money side of the inflation is just like kind of forcing people to comply and just follow the rules they're given, which are all bullshit, as we talked about. And at the same time, once they're then able to figure their health out, then they really start opening up. So there's an argument to be made here, and I kind of go back and forth on whether health is the first step or if money is the first step. I think an argument is actually there to be made that money is first, because like I said, people like really experimenting with your health and finding optimal health requires a little bit of freedom financially, because people have to pay rent. Everything costs money. Everything's getting more expensive now from all the money printing. So in order to give people a little bit of breathing room to start even thinking about these things, I think we need to fix the money. And that's where Bitcoin comes in. What are your thoughts on the Bitcoin versus health? Which one is sort of the step one in digging humanity out of this mess?
So I think it's twofold, because yes, I agree that a lot of people who get financial freedom and like are on the Bitcoin standard, they have the ability to think about it. But there are also a lot of Bitcoiners who are actually very unhealthy, and they have like very unhealthy routines. And it's not that like once you understand money, once you have the financial freedom, that automatically you are trying to become a healthy human being. That's like not the case. I would say it's extremely, or like it's percentage wise, a lot of Bitcoiners do that, but it's not a conclusion. Like, for example, what I
Still
would
not the
say,
majority, basically.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is like happening. More and more people are trying to get into this, but this is a little bit further down the road with down the rabbit hole. So with health, I think it is definitely a problem if you don't have the financial freedom, because like in my carnival video, it's now like has like over 1 million clicks, and the number one comment I get on there is that it's too expensive for me to do this. Like, I think a lot of people want to do this, but they just don't have the resources, and like the fiat system kind of is built in a way that it incentivizes you to buy like nutrition less food, because it's cheaper. And like if you want to actually eat nutrition dense food, it's super expensive, and you need to pay for it because it's a healthy thing, and it costs some money to produce it. So I think, as I said, it's like two-folded, in a sense that once you're a Bitcoiner, it doesn't mean that you're going to be healthier, but the possibilities for you to become healthier are very, very high if you're conscious about it. So I think that's why I think it's so great about what you're doing, what other people are doing. It's like you just need to open this understanding that it's not just the money you've been lied to, but it's also your health. And once you go through this ego death with Bitcoin, you're actively open to be re-educated and re-experiment with your health. And I think this is kind of like why I like what you're doing, and like why I'm also wanting to do this, because I think a lot of Bitcoiners and people out there just aren't aware about this yet. I wasn't aware about this, and like I needed to listen to some carnivore people, and then everything made sense for me. Oh yeah, shit. And I think that's why, like as you say as well, just like education, showing the people that it's actually possible. That's what my videos are about. I'm just like, I want to do the things, as you say, the hardest things for me. Being a carnivore was extremely hard for me. It wasn't easy. Like learning to fight wasn't easy. And so it's just like, I think a lot of people need uh, the activation energy to see, oh, it's actually possible. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners are very prone to do this. So that's how I would see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good nuance to add in, is that it really it opens the door for you, but it doesn't. You still have to walk through it. You still have to go through and actually do the steps required to get there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how the money itself sort of allows that more for people to find these truths. It's also just, we're in the early days right now in Bitcoin, which we're certainly still in. I think we'll still be in the early days for another 10 years, but we're in the especially early days right now. Um, when I was in Austin, Texas, that's when, I was starting to question all these things and go through these things. And it's a perfect place for that, because there's so many Bitcoiners there.
Mm.
It is a major Bitcoin city. And I'd go to the Bitcoin meetups, and I still remember, I think it was Cinco de Mayo. There was at the what was Austin Bitcoin Club is what it's called. We went to Parker Lewis and Unchained's sort of building, and that they had all the meetups there, and we always went there and had the bit devs and all that, and I tried to go to as many of those as I could. But there was a Cinco de Mayo event, and there was tons of food catering. There was all the tacos there, and since there's so many of these like Bitcoin OGs there, Marty Bent and Saifedean and Jimmy Song and Pierre Richard, like they're all hanging out there just talking Bitcoin. These are all guys that Bitcoiners will know of. They have been in the game for a long time. And just when I was there, I noticed that all of their plates were just piles of meat and they weren't having any tortillas or lettuce or tomatoes. So that was one of my first sort of brainworms, is like all these guys who I respect a lot and continue to be right about all of these things are eating this weird way. They're only eating meat. That's weird. And Saifedean, I continued following him, and he talks a lot in his books and his podcasts about carnivore. He had Nina Teichol's on, who's another guest that you should definitely have on. I had her on really early, just talking about this crazy story of how we were all basically fooled into believing fruits and vegetables are healthy when they're not. But yeah, just being around Bitcoiners a lot of times for people, and you and I are both like people. I'm a people person.
Very much
I love
so.
talking to people. I love just, hearing stories and telling stories. And for me, just seeing those people that I trusted doing this was in person was one of the things that got me to start thinking differently. And so that's another thing I want people out there to know is go to Bitcoin meetups. You're going to be introduced to new ideas and meet some really cool people. I actually have a blog post that I'm going to write specifically toward women, telling them that there's so many high quality men in these Bitcoin circles. You need to go find them because, like,
be honest, you just want a girlfriend. Be honest.
Bro, there's so many dope people there who have like just a great view of life in the world. They want to change it, and like, and yeah, I want a girlfriend. But yeah, it's exciting times, and we need to make the most of these early days because it's eventually the noise is going to come in. Plenty of people would argue the noise is already here, but we're still able to sort of navigate it, if we know what we're talking about and we know what we're looking for. But it's eventually, I mean, when Bitcoin goes to the moon, it's just going to become, more mainstream. There's going to be less cheat codes to finding really interesting people and learning really interesting things just automatically. And this is why I think that Nostr is another good place, because Nostr is such a good place to find the signal, because people with followers are actually providing value. And so when I look at the sort of follower rankings on Nostr, it's exactly what I would put it if I was basing on who are the most valuable people to listen to and learn from. So that's going to be a great lighthouse in the storm that's coming when Bitcoin starts flying into the hundreds of thousands and people start losing their minds, because it's going to be a crazy time. I think we all know it's coming.
I think the natural progression here is that there will be like smaller communities, that it's not going to be the Bitcoin community, but for example, it seems like you are spearheading in a carnivore group within the Bitcoin space, and that's going to be like, it's going to be way more fractured and smaller communities where you can find the signal, where now we have this extreme privilege that like, okay, there are not a lot of Bitcoiners. That's why you can be sure, okay, connect with Bitcoiners. They have the same values and so on. But I think it's going to scatter around. And I think it's a good thing that like, okay, you want to have like high quality people to talk to about carnivore, go to Ben, follow Ben and so on. You want to meet sovereign people, go to this guy and so on. So I think, as you say, it's just a natural, it's like, we need to honor the timings we're in right now, that like you can say, I'm just a Bitcoiner, where like you don't say today, I'm an internet guy or something like this. You say like, I'm a marketing expert or whatever. I'm into marketing, which is kind of a subcategory which or online marketing from the internet. So I think the same thing will happen as well. Like, why carnivore? Well, there's a website, Ben is running it, into his community, connect with good people. And I think this is also how it will be flourishing. And I also believe there won't be Bitcoin conferences 10 years down the road. It's rather going to be the carnivore Bitcoin conference or the health Bitcoin conference or something like this. And I think it's just important that we today already honor that this might be the way everything's going to go down, because when you start today already building on this, it's like you are ahead of your time. It's probably like being part of the Silicon Valley in the 80s, 90s, something like this, and just figuring out where the fuck this protocol and all this technology is going, and trying to carve out something where you can provide value for other people, and then it will automatically grow and automatically induce this feedback loop, which is just positive for everybody joining, for you as somebody who's creating content, but also for the people who consume it, because otherwise they would just drop out and unfollow you or stop following your community.
Yeah, and that's a good thing for people to understand. Just when these new technologies come about, they aren't a big deal forever. They eventually, if they're successful, they specifically become sort of ubiquitous and just like foundational. Like when, what's an example? I know Safety talks about like plumbing, when plumbing first was introduced, that's like a huge deal. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is going to make our lives so much better. I don't know if they're like plumbing conferences, but people were really excited about this new thing. But now it's just part of life. It is sort of faded into the background because it worked so well. And I think that's exactly what Bitcoin's going to do eventually. I don't know about. It's fun to predict when that's sort of going to phase out. 10 years, I don't know. I feel like it's still going to be a pretty big deal for the next 10 years. I would guess more like 20, 25 if I had to like throw a dart, but who knows, where it starts to be less about Bitcoin and more about the things that Bitcoin has enabled. Like you said, the early adopters in Bitcoin who, got in when it was still a relatively low fiat price and rode the wave up to gain this extra bonus of becoming wealthy. I think you and I would both agree that Bitcoin isn't just about getting rich. It's much more about just fixing the monetary base of the world to have a fair system for everybody. But those who are very early to it, just like the people who 5,000 years ago were just walking on the beach and just found little pieces of gold and thought, ooh, that's cool. I'll just pick that up and add it, I'll put it on my desk, or I'll put it in my cave or whatever. Yeah. And then they just have this like giant pile of gold that before it was even money. And then as it becomes money, they obviously have a huge windfall there. And they took advantage of the opportunity that they saw. And that's exactly what Bitcoiners are doing right now. So it's a great bonus. And the people who have rode the wave of this bonus will suddenly have a lot more power to promote these other ideas that Bitcoiners like to talk about, like getting healthier and getting more sun, and exploring all these other rabbit holes that we are now able to with these better functioning brains from the health rabbit holes we've been through, and also more financial stability and freedom. So it's very exciting. It's going to spawn so many new awakenings and just a renaissance period, in my opinion. And who knows how this renaissance that we envision is going to jive with the more black pill side that we see, where as the fiat system goes down, it's going to get really, really ugly, because this is a system with unlimited power, and it's completely a magnet to psychopaths who hate humanity, hate people, hate beautiful things. And we learn this more and more as we just go through these rabbit holes of like these industries that profit from people being sick, and so they've attracted the people who want to see people sick and die. And it's how are these two worlds going to collide is the question. What are your thoughts on that? How is this going to go?
So I have one thing which is kind of like, I kind of stopped seeing it as a fight, in a sense. So I was in the beginning of my Bitcoin phase, I was always like, oh, we need to demolish fiat, we need to fight it, this is bad, da 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 da. But I think it's way better to just, or for me, mentally healthy, it's just like reframing it. And it's like, a little bit like Ayn Rand talks about it. Just, I mean, it's not the best example because they're also trying to actively destroy the system, but it's kind of what I see is just we're building this alternative, and it's like people will the people who should live on this alternative are naturally being gravitated into this, and it's kind of like I don't think we need to actively try to destroy the other system because it's destroying itself. It's just like if we focus on the
I would
positive
agree
side,
with that for sure. It's
yeah,
already falling apart. We're the
it's
lifeboat.
exactly. And it's just like what we're doing with what we're doing is just showing the people the lifeboat and what is possible here. And it's like also I kind of stopped orange pilling people in a sense. I mean, we can talk about this, but it's kind of like I don't want to force people anymore to go on the lifeboats. I see myself as somebody just showing people what the life on the lifeboat could be, and then they like see, oh, this is interesting. I never thought about this. I might need to think about to integrate this into my life, which I think is a way healthier way to get the people on board because, yeah, forcing people always has like like they need to do it from their own will. Like even we can force people to go into the orange pill, like down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I don't think it's the right thing because like people need to naturally gravitate towards this because we also don't want the wrong people in there, right? It's like you see this with all the people like trying to change Bitcoin, trying to do this and that in this space. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we just build the best we can do here and then just make this, as you say, rafting boat or like good enough for the people eventually to come over. It's like, let's not like, even though we see their boat is sinking, we don't yet need to take them over and like get them off because if we do it forcefully, there is a possibility that they will that like get their head banged against the railing or something. It's like, no, we just built this boat and make everything ready for them to, when they actually realize that the boat is sinking, that we have everything set up, that there is like a big enough slide so that people can easily slide in. And I think this is just what we need to do. It's the same with Nostr, you know. That's why I posted a note where I said like a lot of clients in Nostr I think do wrong things. They focus too much on being like owning the data self-sovereign and so on, and like opening the whole Nostr the Nostr world to the people once they log in. It's like overwhelming people. I want to spearhead like clients who are actually actively just focusing on good UX and having in the background obviously everything on Nostr, but just doing different ways of even dictating how to use Nostr in the beginning. And then, you know, this is kind of like this will open up the slide, and then once they are on the live raft, they have like their special part where it's like, okay, Nostr for beginner, client, or whatever it's going to be called, and it just has this one functionality. And once they are comfortable in there, then they can go and discover the whole boat. But I think it's a this comes from Bitcoiners understanding what actually is happening and then having this complex of trying to save the whole world, like be going out there and I'm going to save everybody and so on. But I think it's way better to just prepare everything so that people can save themselves. And like, I don't think we need to be putting ourselves into, oh, I saved so many people with what I do. It's like, give the people the opportunity to save themselves because then they will also be way different connected to Bitcoin and Nostr. And I think this, if like we focus more on this, we might even have a bigger impact than just like trying to force everybody down the boat. Be like, oh, you don't see this? Fuck! What the fuck are you doing? Why are you so dumb? You know?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a really good point and a different perspective than I guess just a very perspective from where I'm at. I definitely have this save everyone from everything complex that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
I can't keep my
I
mouth shut
had
when,
to.
yeah, I mean, we all have some of it. It's just like a spectrum, you know.
Yeah,
I am just always trying to refine my radar of trying to find people who I know will get a lot out of it and will really, you know, have a great outcome and really learn a lot from it, and who are ready. Like you said,
Yeah.
like you can't force people who aren't ready, or they're going to bang their head on the bar coming off the Fiat boat. But
So would you say your approach was successful so far with kind of like trying to save people, be like the one?
I'm definitely getting better. It's a skill set, because you're trying to figure out you have to use the classic sales tactics of figuring out what people's needs are and focusing purely on that, and not trying to tell them, oh, like throw them 100 reasons why Bitcoin is going to save the world and Nostr is going to be the best thing
Yeah.
ever, but figure out what their needs are. And a perfect example is this girl named Kimberly from the Netherlands I met just in Mexico a few weeks ago, and she was just like drawing at a table, and I introduced her like, oh, like that's very good, like you're an artist, and she's like, yeah, she has like all this art. I love finding artists. I think that this is a great one to chat with because so many artists have the same problems, which we talked about much earlier, where the path to being able to monetize this seems impossible for most, and they sort of surrender to the fact that this is only going to be a hobby. This is never going to be a moneymaker. And so showing them, just pulling out and showing on my own phone, like here, and just here's a picture of a plant or something. Just literally show them in person, you doing it, just taking a cool picture or writing out a post on Nostr, and how in like 10 minutes it's received some zaps and people are like literally paying you for it, and like helping them see that track. For me, that's been very useful.
Yeah.
And I've gotten, man, I don't know, maybe like a dozen people on Nostr, and maybe like 5 of them, maybe 4 or 5 of them are like actually posting regularly now. So
That's cool.
it's happening, I'm getting there, but it's you're not going to get every person, obviously. And it's still, there's still quite a bit of friction, like you said. And there is a case to be made for fully focusing on helping these clients make like a silky smooth onboarding experience, because I think you and I are both sort of most focused on just finding those people who can really get so much out of this, but they're not super techie. They're not technological, because I'm not techie.
I'm not.
Yeah, I just know that the opportunity is this big that I'm going to push through that friction, which, it's not even that bad. Like, I don't want people listening to this to think it's like a nightmare to use. These clients are pretty darn good. They've improved a lot in the last year since I first got on. So it's not terrible. It's not Twitter-like experience yet, but it's getting there. And you get to be part of this ground floor and actually being part of building this, because you can literally tag in these developers who are creating these clients and give them your feedback directly and tell them, what you want. And I've done that before. I've given invite, and things have been implemented that I thought were cool, and this is awesome. And if you are techie, if like there are plenty of people out there listening that may be like trying to go into the development side of things, you can make your own client. You can literally, you don't need to ask any permission. This is what's cool about Nostr, is you can just start building, and either by yourself or build a team. And this is like another path that you can follow. There's infinite paths you can follow in this free open source software world, which Nostr really enables.
Yeah, I agree. That's the exciting thing about it. Also, that like we don't know what this all is capable of, but like you can be part of figuring out together with all of us what this is capable of, and also, as you say, like actually make a dent in the universe or in this protocol by. You never know what you're gonna post of. Like, hey, dude, I have no idea about I have no idea about technological stuff or something. But again, coming back to the Rick Rubin thing, my perspective is from a content creator. I just posted what I told you with the with that we need to dictate what Nostr is, how to use it, and so on. And like I think 5 developers came back trying to go on calls to actually implement something like this. And it's like because it's so small, you're able to actually have an influence, and it's extremely cool. And we need those different people from different perspectives, because if we want to make this mainstream or like more people on there, it's like it doesn't help that all of us are Bitcoiners, all of us have like the same values. Everybody understands already Nostr. It's like we need those people who struggle to copy paste their NSEC, their keys, and because those are ultimately the people for who we are building it for, right? Because we we want to build the slides for getting off the decentralized social media platforms. So it's like, again, here it's kind of repeating, and I'm repeating myself, but like, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what you do, your insight is also extremely valuable with this Nostr protocol, because we can't see anything. We have our blind spots on there. We've been using it for years already. We're used to bugs here and there. So it's just like, it's a journey together, you know, and that's the cool thing about it.
Absolutely. And that, I think I can agree. That's why it's so exciting. And we've touched on this a couple times. Like you said, we're starting to go in circles, so we'll move on in just a second here. But one last
Yes.
thing to throw out is just way back, and I think it was the second episode of my podcast. I had Paul Keating on, who I know you're aware of. You just saw him get married, which is super
Yes, sir.
freaking cool. Congrats to Paul and Amor. Just this idea we talked about way back, how social media has the power to really enrich our lives and not suck it away.
Yes.
Like, so many people have gone into this track of just staring at their phones and doom scrolling and losing life from social media. But there is an opportunity there to enrich your life, to start monetizing the things that you love doing and find the paths to make you feel the most human and create beautiful things with it. So
Yep.
I think that's like a good kind of like final point to throw in there just for people looking at this. This is really going to be part of the puzzle of shifting our future to a much brighter one. So for anyone out there listening who hasn't gotten on Nostr yet, highly recommend it. It's very easy. It takes like, 10, 15 minutes to use Primal. That's usually the one I still give people because it has a built-in Lightning wallet and it's just less steps. Yeah, it's going to change everything. It's going to change the game. Follow me and Max. Max, you got like 30,000 followers on there. You're killing it from that documentary you made.
You too, man. You're on 10,000, I think. You're fucking killing it as well, brother. So
it's good to be early. Anyone out there, you're still super early. You can get in, and if you can just be interesting and different, that is even better. I saw a girl last night, I think, that just posted her introductions post, and she's like a horse whisperer, like equestrian expert, and she's has a YouTube channel about like how to work with horses, and that's cool. That's totally different. I love, everyone loves when some like totally unique niche or character comes in, and just in making the community more vibrant and diverse is definitely a big plus. So be as weird as possible is what I'm trying to say. Come in there and be your totally weird self. To keep Nostr weird, and it's the place to be.
Yes,
Get rid
sir,
of your Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, fuck that shit.
So I want to dive into a little bit of your actual rabbit holes you've been to on the health side. This is a little bit of a pivot here. So I was scrolling just through your YouTube channel, and I've watched almost all of them, not every single one, but the majority of the health-centered ones. You've done sleeping on the floor, getting lots of sun, cutting seed oils, cutting tap water, cutting centralized social media for Nostr, which I would count that as health. That's mental health. All these different experiments you've done. What has been the most enlightening or life-changing one for you personally?
Life-changing, definitely carnivore and seed oil. Although I'm like not 100% carnivore right now, it's kind of like because I now understand like what carbs do to my body and how bad they are actually, and that I actually just react super bad to them. And I think I'm just able to like to honor this or see this because I went so extreme by doing carnivore. And I think everybody should one time in their life do it just to understand what different things do to the body. And even if you don't think that carnivore is the way to go for you, it's just like you will learn so much also about discipline of not eating sweets, not eating sugars. And it's like, it's such a multifaceted thing, how to cook properly, what do you actually need. And this was definitely one of the strongest experiment that I did. I mean, I have one which is coming up, the Muay Thai fight, which is just like learning how to fight.
We'll get into that too. That's one I definitely want to dive into.
Yeah, that's that's a crazy rabbit hole. But other than that, of course, seed oils, just understanding why they are so bad, because there it's more like an educational side that like I needed to understand what it actually is to like to stop eating them and be very strict about it. It's like because you don't really taste them, and it's very hard to like if you just normally eat seed oils, you won't recognize how bad they are for you. But once you cut them out for a longer period of time, then your body switches and like immediately feeling shitty if you eat seed oils. So there, it's also helped me the educational side to understand what this is. I had like a tap water video, which is was quite interesting. It's just like a lot of things are so normal. We just drink tap water and we don't think about the BPA in the bottles and so on. And all of this is just like I see this on a spectrum. My life is or like health. I don't think for everything there's like this one answer, but there's a spectrum, and like understanding where like the healthiest water you can get is like and the worst is like having BPA, plastic, and standing in the sun, tap water, and so on, just gives you enough knowledge to try to figure out where on the spectrum it works for you. And this is kind of like with everything I'm doing with carnivore, what is the spectrum? I needed to check, okay, how is it on the extreme? And then knowing how it is, I can dial back or say, okay, I need to live on the extreme. With seed oils as well, do I actually want to cut all the seed oils? It's like, and there are so many rabbit holes that you could do. And it's very hard for me as well to just decide which ones I wanna do or I'm interested in. Um, but it's a holistic picture, right? It's like um, it's there are like maybe carnivore one has the biggest impact if you want to lose weight and so on. But like seed oils, there's a lot with like also with the gym and so on, like health, the human body is such a complex thing, and I I just try to dive into those different topics, figure out the scale for myself, and then see how I combine all of this. But I don't take it too um, like too crazy in a sense that if I'm in an airport, I might drink from a plastic bottle because I'd rather like not dehydrate. But it's just like I know that by doing this, I know that I shouldn't be doing it. It's the same like with alcohol or people smoking. Most people know that it's bad for them, but with a lot of those health stuff, we don't know that it's bad. So by diving deep,
Exactly.
you can still do it. It's fine. You can eat seed oils, but you should at least be aware that it's on the lower end of the spectrum. And by that, I think you naturally at some point will get towards living a healthier life because you don't always want to zero into the unhealthy way of living.
And I think that's why it really just comes down to education before anything. I did a episode about this British dude named Ali recently, and we talked all about that, like the dogma and the conversation in the carnivore world. Like, does everyone have to be 100% perfect? If you're not 100% perfect, are you not a real carnivore and
Yeah.
stuff like that? And it's just for me personally, like even you and I are sort of in different levels. I'm a little bit more on the extreme side, but I'm not 100. I'm probably 95, 99%.
Yeah.
But just knowing that when you do eat these other things, you are poisoning yourself. Just understanding
Yep.
and having a healthy amount of, you know, like as you're doing this action, it's negative, and you
Yep.
just sort of visualize your own like health bar from the video game days. Like you have your health bar. If you have to do something like that, if you have to have a plastic water bottle, like you said, in the airport, because it's better than dehydrating.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to make these trade-offs, and sometimes
Exactly.
there are also simply life experiences where the fiat world introduces you this opportunity, and it's like what it sounds fun to me. I'll poison myself for a minute.
Yeah.
What's an example? I think that the last time I went off was like 3 weeks ago. Like me and a bunch of guys in the place I'm staying at, we went out for this amazing hike in this jungle forest near this part of Mexico. I'm in San Cristobal. Amazing place, like this old Mayan outpost on this river. Like you can literally go through this cave and you can see the old remnants of like skulls in the rock. It's fucking crazy. And so we just we took a big edible and we were just high as fuck, just walking around these like old
Yeah.
Mayan temples. And at the end of it, had some beers, and for that, dude, like I don't regret that. That was
Yeah.
fun. You know,
Yeah.
we got a little turned up and just saw some really weird things in the forest.
Yeah,
And
because that's also a thing which, like, although I'm trying to be as healthy as I can, I don't see, I don't want to be a Brian Johnson. Like, to be such a, like, everything, single protocol here and there. I think this is then overdoing it, which is actually like, not even that he's doing unhealthy stuff, right? His health thing is like very questionable, very fiat health, I would say. But like, even like just taking everything too serious, I think, is also a problem when it comes to health, because you miss on like so many other things. So it's really this thing where, as long as you're aware about the things, it's okay to drink sometimes alcohol or here and there. But as I say, you gotta be aware that, hey, today I'm gonna poisoning myself. I'm fine with that. Maybe I'm not gonna, like, today I'm eating a pizza, or maybe I'm gonna be fasting the next day, something like this. It's like, it's everything is, it's up to the spectrum, I would say. And if you can make sure that the majority of time you're on the right projection, and like you make sure that 80 to 90% of your time you're actually eating healthy, you're not destroying your body, you're trying to move towards the right direction, this is just what you should be aiming towards to. And then you always go towards the North Star, even though you might have some days off and so on, which actually makes it healthy, because it's rather you get every like 20% off, rather than being on 100% for 1 month and then it's too hard, and then you go completely the other direction and eat total bullshit again, and then you're at zero again. So I would say just rather try to get 80 to 90% healthy. The 10% is like, okay, you can poison yourself, whatever it is, but by making sure that the majority of your actions are towards the healthier self that you are aspiring to become, then it's a good thing.
and just know yourself too, and be honest with yourself, and know that if you have these addictive tendencies when it comes to food, you may have to be more strict. Like,
Yeah.
and that's something for me, is that I'm relatively good at just bouncing back and getting back on track. So after that hack we went on, I had some beers with the boys at the end, out in the sunshine, having a great time. The next day, it's funny. It doesn't matter what type of carbohydrate it is, if it's alcohol or fruit or salad or whatever. The next day, it's pretty much roughly 24 hours the next day, I will be more tempted to have those things. And the
Yes.
meat will be a little bit less satisfying. And I'll be a little bit more fiat brain. I'll spend a little more time like scrolling on my phone and just doing these sort of NPC activities. That's something I've really noticed, is that I can actually feel my brain and my motivation has just come down a notch for a day. So but since I'm able to just sort of, I know that now. I know that this next day is just going to be kind of, lower tier for what my standards are. And I'm okay with that, But certain people, when that slope gets more slippery, it's really hard for them to get back on track. And so if you're that type of person, you may have to go like full lion diet, or you may be someone like Michaela Peterson, who needs to be 100% lion diet, only, not even just meat, but only ruminant meat, only beef and water and salt. And that's it. And this is why I sort of, if we're talking about North Stars here, I would consider the lion diet the ultimate North Star. This is like the king peak of health. Doing that for 30 to 90 days, really just clearing all of that shit out of your system. And then you will get a much clearer picture when you start putting it back in, how it affects your body. Because I've been doing this for over a year now and experimenting quite a bit along the way. And that's what I've learned, is that the rare moments where it is worth cheating, it's pretty much just the mindset I have is this like going to be an experience I will look back on someday with joy,
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the truth, then one lower level day after that is potentially worth it. For this one, there's another example. When I was in Cancun, also with celebrating a Mexican buddy's birthday, we're in his rich parents' penthouse suite at the top of this like epic, like they're super rich, and we were just sipping champagne, like looking at this view of the city, like hell yeah, I'm gonna have some champagne ammo,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's certain moments where it's the experience. To me, it's just, I think that's my decider now. Is this going to give me an experience? If it's not giving me an experience, if I'm just sitting at home and I feel like eating some pizza, no, I'm not going to let myself do that, because then you're just poisoning yourself for no reason, really, for no good reason, in my opinion. You're just pulling yourself down for just gluttony. It's just, you're just letting the bad thoughts win in that case, and there's not a benefit from it. There's no good memory from just eating this shit when you're sitting at your house. To me at least, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I would agree. Exactly. I think that's a good North Star. And again, like define your own North Star if you're listening to this. My North Star is different than Ben's North Star. Like it depends. Like my North Star while I was training the Muay Thai fight was just to that like winning the fight, preparing as much as I can was my North Star. This meant that I actually needed more carbs because this is just what I needed, and it might have been possible with a carnivore diet, yes, but like it was just not the priority for me to be kind of like quote unquote healthy during that time. I was like okay with eating. I didn't eat pizzas or something like this. I still was very, very healthy if you consider it like in the mainstream, but in the carnivore realm, it's like, oh fuck, you ate rice? Well, what are you doing? And I get that, but so as you say, like if you're not so as the line side, then that's it, and you should do that. I think there are a couple of things which you can always say, which are just like, you should never do whatever your North Star is. Let's say hard drugs, something like this. It's just like the benefit, even if it gives you an experience, are very questionable. And there are things which I would say you should actually, or you can just get rid of your life completely, because even though it's tempting, like, it's healthier to just not do this at all. But I agree with you. Like, yeah.
All right, dude, we got to talk about this freaking Muay Thai fight. I'm tired of dancing around it. This is like,
yes, sir.
This is so I followed along on your Instagram story back when this was actually happening. This was what, like 6 months ago or something?
4 months ago, yeah.
4 months ago, yeah. So I want to hear this whole story, dude. How did this happen? Just starting from like the idea. Did you go to Thailand and then come up with this idea, or was this the point of the trip to Thailand that you took?
It was both. So it was like I was questioning myself what I want to do next, and as you know, I try to do hard things, and I was like, dude, I have no idea how to protect my family if something happens. Like, I want to learn to actually fight. It's kind of like a thing. And then I was like, what's the hardest fighting I could do? It's actually Muay Thai. Because it's extremely painful. You don't have any, when you actually have a professional fight, which I wanted to have, you don't have any helmets or any padding on your elbows or something. It's like, it's just you against a man. You have 10 ounces of boxing gloves, but that's it. And you can use your elbows, you can use your feet, you can use basically every
knees are a big one. I see a lot of knees.
Yes, a lot of knees, a lot of elbows.
Brutal.
It's very brutal, yeah. So I thought like, hey, I was in the state like, let's challenge myself. I want to do this once in my life. I just want to see if I can actually do it. And then a couple of my friends were like, yeah, let's move to Thailand. And I was like, okay, this is now the time to do this. And then I set myself the goal to actually do it like in 6 months. That was the timing I had, and I started training, and the first weeks were incredibly hard. It's something like, you will see it in the video when this podcast is out. The documentary will have dropped already, but you see that like I'm only like all my life I did sports with balls, like that sounds very funny, but like football and handball and stuff like that. And I was very good in those sports. But then I did combat sports. I had never done a combat sport, and it was so bad. It's like, you will see that my coordination and everything I'm doing is really, really bad, and I was struggling so hard. But I just had this goal to do it, and then I went to training every single day. I never skipped the training. As I said, I was prioritizing doing this, and went through a lot of shit. And there were a lot of people who didn't believe in me to make it happen, including my trainer. So after training for 4 months, my trainer told me that I will never be able to fight because I'm too bad. And it was pretty intense. So I was like, getting better. I had an injury in between, so I couldn't train for, I think it was 3 weeks or something. And then my trainer at some point says like, dude, you're not good enough. You will never be able to professionally fight. And I went through so much shit during that time. That's why I said like, this was the most life-changing experience I did, because I went through so much shit, and I needed to trust myself, to trust my abilities, to keep pushing, even though everybody was questioning myself, and finding a way to somehow make it happen. And yeah, it's changed my view on life, on what's actually possible. If you dedicate yourself, coming back to being a creator, coming back to be a podcaster, it's just like, there's always a way to make it happen. You need to trust yourself. And if it takes 10 years, then it takes 10 years. And if you prioritize this, you will make it happen. So there's a lot which I learned on there. That's going to be also the first Proof of Health podcast, talking with another professional Muay Thai fighter about what I learned exactly. Because like, I was ready to die in there. It sounds very extreme, but like, from a mental perspective, the last 10 days, it's a mixture of being so afraid of what's going to happen and having so much respect about going actually into the ring at the first thing, that like, I was watching a lot of podcasters and I had a very good surroundings of professional fighters with me. And like, I kind of prepared myself to get the responsibility, whatever happens in that ring is happening to me, and I decided it. And this led to me to just like accept death to a certain degree, which is extreme, but that's what it requires when you want to do this. And this changed my whole perspective about life. And so yeah, it was intense. Fucking loved it. I fucking loved it and fucking hated it. But now looking back at it, it was an incredible journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's so badass. I love it. That's just super cool and inspirational for me personally, because I sort of fell into the UFC rabbit hole. I don't know if it's quite a rabbit hole, but it's definitely sort of a path.
Mm-hmm.
Back in like 2022, I think I just started watching it, and I feel like when any man starts watching this, it just becomes addicting very quickly.
Yes,
because it really taps into the most primal sense inside of you of like just being able to defend yourself and beat the shit out of someone if you need to. You know, this is the oldest sport in history. It's like, it's nature. You know, this is the most natural thing that happens in nature. You see animals just fighting to the death. And so this is like the closest thing to that. And so, I honestly recommend more men start watching this, and you know, women too if you want to, but specifically men, because that should be one of our roles, is that we are the protector. We should be able to, you know, handle business and protect ourselves, our family, if we ever need to.
exactly.
And so this has been like a real thing for me as well. You've gone further down. You went and actually did it. Now, for me, when I watch these things, it inspired me to like definitely train. I need to do this. This is on my list of man skills I need to get for sure. I have this sort of mental list. One of them is I need to learn how to dance really well. I'm terrible at dancing. That's a man skill. Fighting is number 2. Those two are like sort of tied for like the very top of the list of things I need to learn. But I'll give you my sort of one of my mental blocks, which is I really care about my brain. I like my brain to be healthy and not concussed. And so for me, this is like, I don't care about my chest down. Like, I can beat the shit out of that. I will abuse that happily. But you seem like the type of person as well. Like, you care so much about health. So am I just a little bitch if I don't want to get knocked in the head to do this training? You know, what was your path of sort of getting over that? Because you're going in there with a guy who wants to take your head off.
Yeah. And that's why I will stop fighting now. It's kind of, it changes your brain in a positive way with what I told you with the spiritual thing of like, actually thinking about what do you value in life, being okay with death, and so on. And this only happens when you're going so close to death and actually having the fear that something will happen to your body, which I value so highly, and I try to be as healthy as possible. Only by putting myself into a position where I could actually lose this, and I was thinking, oh fuck, I could actually break something, I could get paralyzed, I could cut my brain, break my nose. Only then this change happens, because I think you need to get so close to this danger that you will actually even appreciate your life, and what, like, that I'm able to sit here. You will only appreciate it when once you're going into a position to actually be able to lose this. So I think this is the one thing why I would say, like, one fight is very beneficial for you and your perspective on life. But after this, it's just a risk for your body. So that's why, like, so in training, like normally in Thailand at least, it's like you don't hit full on, right? Like, yes, you need some hard sparrings before you go into a fight, and it's very, like, it feels hard the first time you get on, like, hit in sparring and so on, but like compared to a fight, it's actually nothing. And so, like, first of all, you're gonna get hardened without being concussed or something when you spar. Then I would say one fight is definitely enough, because then you also feel that your body can handle so much more than you actually think. Like in the training, I was basically a pussy, but by saying, like, dude, why are you so hard hitting me and so on. But only during the fight and after the fight, I was actually seeing how much my body can handle. And I had a period of time where I couldn't see in the ring. It was like everything went dark, and I was like, holy shit, what's happening to my body? But it's also like I actually injured myself. So my foot, I don't know if I broke it, but I had some issues with my foot. It's like I could walk and everything. It was just like for 1 or 2 months I was not doing a lot of sports because I injured myself. But it's also the thing that your body is actually able to recover and handle a lot. So coming back to your question, if you're a pussy, you're definitely a pussy for, for the first
Thank
fight.
you. I need the feedback, dude. This is how we improve.
Yes. So let me put this into perspective. Yes, you are a pussy, but your concerns are real, and that's why it is okay to start fighting, to spar, and so on. But you shouldn't overdo it, because obviously it's bad for your body to constantly be in there. But I think at that stage, just the positive sides are so overwhelmingly big that I would just tell whoever, at least training, you don't do a professional fight. That's like again, spectrum. Going on a professional fight is the most extreme you can do on the spectrum, but not knowing to fight it at all is on the other side. So going in between to get a little bit hits here and there is a healthy way of approaching this.
I love it, dude. And that is definitely inspirational to me, because I would say, of course, I've thought about these things like, would this be an amazing experience that would really make me a better man? And I think that those points you're giving are an excellent perspective on yes, it definitely
Yeah,
does. So I haven't, I don't know what I'm going to do about this, because I'm sort of on the fence, like
I
I enjoy
understand,
watching
man.
UFC, and maybe I'll do it someday. Who knows?
Yeah, it's gonna be uncomfortable as fuck, man. It's like,
Yeah.
like, hopefully the video will inspire you. I think that
Yes,
was
dude.
my goal. That was my goal with this video, to just show I'm a normal dude. If you see this, I have no idea what I'm doing the first 5 minutes of the video. It's like I purposefully show that I have no idea, because I actually had no idea. It's like, and it's again this thing, like, it's with everything. That's what I learned now for life. After this, I went to Costa Rica and tried to learn surfing. It's with a lot of those skills, it's you don't have any idea how it's going. Like also with business, and I think you just need to be honest about this with yourself. Appreciate that you are a beginner with this, and then if you stick to it, if it's more important to you, you will actually get somewhere and be the person you maybe think about you will never be able to become when you start this journey.
I love it, man. I'm already inspired just hearing you talk about it. So I can't wait to watch this video. It should be, is it coming out in the next few weeks or something?
I'm just yesterday I finished it, so I'm just finishing up everything. And so yeah, it's
exciting, dude.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to put that out there, because that is definitely going to be, it's going to make a lot of people think about more things. Like you said, that's like a real mind bender. Is this, so few of us go into situations where we are legitimately terrified anymore. You know, this is like something that's sort of been taken out of the human brain in the modern age, where we're relatively safe all the time. You know, we don't have to worry about a lion coming after to kill us, or an enemy tribe coming trying to murder us to take our land. These used to be normal things. And so the question that more people need to be asking is, you know, is that really what's best for us or for individuals? You know, has it made us too soft? Lots of things to think about. And I'm looking forward to watching this for sure. This is going to be very interesting, because this is one of the things I've been thinking about for a while, you know, because I'm definitely like you. I'm always trying to improve myself and upgrade myself. And that's like a great avenue I haven't touched. I've been
because
to like,
it's hard. It's hard, man.
Exactly. It's really hard.
It's
and like you
hard.
really have to push through. This isn't hard, like, you know, like, am I going to make this big Bitcoin buy instead of, you know, save? Like, this is like your life and your health.
And you can't cheat. You can't cheat. There's no way. Like, there's no way to cheat in this. It's like either you put in the work and you actually do it, or not. And it's like, it's a different way of hard, which we're just not used to. It's like carnivore is hard as well. It's so raw, and you see so many dark avenues of yourself. You have so many self-doubts, so many people doubting you from outside. It's like there's so much happening, and it's often overwhelming, and it's painful. But in the end, it's going to be worth it.
For sure, man. Sweet. We just crossed the 1.5 hour mark. I know we both got some stuff coming up later, so why don't we start wrapping this up? What is your message to the people out there, I would say, who are resonating with all these things we're talking about? Anyone who's still listening has some reason to, you know, resonate with these things, whether it be the exploring the artistic side, utilizing modern technology to improve our place in the world, be able to do what we want to do, or going in and fighting and like just gathering these skills that are important for human beings, the more primal skills. All this is really connected in a way, you know. It all comes together in just making ourselves the best we can be, and the world the best it can be, and the future of humanity the best it can be. What do you think these people need to hear who are maybe inspired by these things, but just need a little extra push to start making those moves?
4 words: risk more, stay healthy. That's it. I would say get into uncomfortable situations, actually risk stuff. Risk your body if it is, risk your diet, risk making mistakes, risk talking to the girl you find cute, risk trying to initiate business. Risk it, but also make sure that you're staying healthy, that you have the long-term perspective, that you don't wreck yourself by fighting every week and getting your head fucked up. It's kind of like definitely risk more and combine it with stay healthy.
Risk more in an intelligent way, with purpose, you know, with a long-term view, I think is a good way to put that. Yeah. I love it, man. This has been an awesome conversation, Max. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we could turn this from a regular offline chat into a podcast. I think that's the cool way to do it. It's great to get an update from you, and I can't wait to hear more from your podcast that you're building. I'm definitely going to shoot you some recommendations, because I've been going deep down all sorts of these rabbit holes as well, and have found some extremely interesting characters who I know you'd love to talk to.
Awesome.
And it's exciting times ahead, my friend. Coming up on 2025.
Yes,
Fun
sir.
things coming, exciting times coming, man.
I'm looking forward. I'm bullish. Awesome. Thanks for having me. And we definitely need to make a a recording on my podcast soon as well.
Yes.
So
yes, we'll space it out a couple months and we'll make it happen, my man. Looking forward
sounds
to
good.
it.
Sounds
see you
good.
later.
Awesome. Cool. Stay healthy. Bye.